What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the proposal to add elk safe zones. So basically the idea of this distinguish between the areas where we want elk and the areas where we don't want elk. Cow elk safe zones and cow elk problem zones. Why cow elk safe zones are a smart idea for growing elk herds. Elk are incredibly intelligent animals, and perhaps nothing proves that more than how quickly they adapt to hunting pressure. Once hunters hit the hills, elk become elusive, often headed straight for private lands or protected areas where hunting is limited or even off limits. In Utah, this phenomenon is very well documented with GPS data. As soon as archery season begins, elk often vanish from public lands and regroup in places where they feel safe. The result? Fewer elk where hunters can access them, and more elk congregating in areas where they become difficult or impossible to manage. So, what's the real issue here? It's not that we can't have more elk on the landscape. Biologically, we can. Utah has the capacity to support many more elk, especially during the summer months when the high mountain ranges offer plenty of space and forage. In fact, summer elk range is vastly underutilized in many parts of the state. As someone who has done rangeland projects on literally every mountain range in Utah, I've seen it firsthand. Huge areas with suitable habitat that hold little to no elk. Not because they can't, but because elk either haven't discovered them or they have been pressured out by constant hunting. The real limiting factor isn't biological, it's about where elk end up, especially during the winter. Elk can become a major concern when they move into agricultural land, cross highways, raid haystacks, or encroach on urban areas. These problem areas force us to reduce elk populations more than necessary, not because we've hit an environmental ceiling, but because the elk are in the wrong places at the wrong times. This is where cow elk safe zones come in. Let us use elk behavior to our advantage. Elk seek safety. That's their nature. If we stop applying relentless pressure in key public land areas, especially during sensitive times like August and early fall, elk will start to stay in those places longer. When we blast public lands with archery pressure early in the season, we essentially push the elk off the mountains right when we want them there the most. We've already seen this happen. The elk move in masses when archery hunters hit the woods. Let's change that. By shortening cow elk hunting seasons in desired elk areas, what we're calling safe zones, we keep elk on public lands where hunters actually want to see them during bull elk seasons. By extending seasons in areas we don't want elk, like ag fields, cities, and crucial mule deer habitat, we pressure them to avoid those spots altogether. It's not just about population control, it's about location control. In cow elk safe zones, which is public land ideal for elk habitat, archery cow elk hunts will be shortened to coincide with spike elk season only. Archery spike elk hunters will still be able to shoot a cow. However, no cow tags will be sold OTC for this season. Only spike permits drawn for archery will be valid for cow elk during this season. Rifle cow elk hunts will begin the third Saturday in November and last for 2 weeks. Permits would be limited based on herd objectives. In some areas, the short-term outlook, there may be few or no cow tags at all for this season. Long-term outlook, however, we may see vast cow elk hunting opportunities as elk numbers climb and meet new objectives. And the goal for this is to keep elk in these areas longer, especially during bull elk seasons. Many of you guys have hunted in areas where all the elk are pressured out of an area, either onto private lands or into an area that we can't hunt. So one of the primary goals to this is to avoid pressuring all the elk into areas that they're not accessible for us average Joe hunters, and keep them in areas where we can hunt, especially through those bull season. In problem areas, which I'm classifying as valleys that are primarily ag lands or urban areas as well as crucial mule deer range. In these specific areas for cow elk hunting, elk seasons may begin with the regular archery elk season, and some hunts may extend all the way to March 31st. The people that I've shared this with, one of the very most common questions is, why in the world would we hunt cow elk until March 31st? One of the things that I want you all to understand is, first off, there are very, very, very few elk that would be hunted during this season. But the purpose of those seasons are, one, ag fields typically green up before anything else. And so we are going to use this as a tool to hunt in the valleys late in the year to make sure that we are protecting the ag fields without having to take a huge toll on our overall elk populations. Because if we don't do this, then what I've seen in the past, I've seen on many units, is if we get too many complaints from the guys with the ag fields, then the whole entire unit ends up getting opened up, and it ends up just taking a huge toll on the overall elk population. Whereas if we focus our hunting in these areas that are very close, or even the ag fields themselves, then we will eventually just train the elk to avoid those, which will allow us to have a lot more elk in the areas that we want them. So that's the purpose of the hunting potentially going clear till the end of March. In problem areas, the elk permits will be given out very liberally to maintain pressure on the elk for an extended period of time, thus helping us essentially train these elk to stay in the areas that we want them. The goal is to make these areas unattractive for elk to reduce conflicts of overgrazing crucial mule deer habitat while opening up space in safer, more sustainable regions. These problem areas are the minority of the area, and long season would only occur in the areas that we do not want elk. We could even incorporate mapping tools that show safe zones and problem zones. Hunters could download these maps directly to their phones, helping them plan hunts while contributing to a better elk distribution across the state. Okay, so what is the big picture? The big picture is more elk and better hunting. By redefining how and where we pressure cow elk, we can do these things. We can increase elk herd objectives in underutilized areas. We can protect crucial mule deer winter ranges from elk overuse. We can reduce agricultural conflicts and urban elk problems. We can create better hunting experiences with more elk on public lands during prime bull elk seasons. In short, cow elk safe zones aren't about protecting elk from hunters. They're about smart management. They give us the tools to grow our herds responsibly, reduce conflict with landowners, and provide hunters with more consistent opportunities to pursue elk on lands we all share. Next thing, speaking of lands that we all share, there are some lands that we don't share, and we're going to get to that in a future video. So stay tuned, because we will address elk movement on private lands and suggestions in a separate video and article to address those issues. So make sure that you guys stay tuned. If you guys have any ideas, comments, suggestions, also drop them in the comments below, because we will read all of them. We value your feedback. And again, our goals is to get more opportunities to the common hunter. We want to help our elk populations and overall trophy size.